Hey there, Jeff Slakey from iFIBER 1 News Radio, station manager and host of Daybreak. Coming up, you're going to get a chance to see and hear the candidates during the League of Women Voters Speed Dating Format Forum that was at the PUD 3 building on Johns Prairie Road. We were able to sit down with 8 candidates for 4 races: assessor, district court judge, sheriff, and county commissioner. The League of Women Voters curated and asked many of the questions to the candidates as they move from table to table. What you'll hear are some of those questions, as well as some from the citizens that were sitting around the table during the League of Women Voters Speed Dating Forum at PUD 3.
What's the solution for the jail there, since they got to turn everybody? There's people walking around they can't arrest because there's no space.
Well, that's a very, very important question, and it's multifaceted. One, our jail is very inefficient, built in 1985, and for 1985, it was designed to work with the technology that they had then. It's a highly waste of space today with technology the way that we have it. I don't think that it would be cost effective to redesign the jail in its current footprint, although I wish we could. But it was built to have a capacity of 144, and now it's capped for many different reasons at about 80. There is some room to grow that. We obviously have to be careful of lawsuits against the county, and that's important to recognize. But I believe that the ultimate solution to the jail is going to be working with not only the county commissioners, local law enforcement, but also possibly Grays Harbor County, just like the sheriff's been talking about. It was something I've been talking about since the beginning of this campaign, is we need to work on possibly creating a law enforcement center. Where I grew up, we had a law enforcement center that had your courts, it had your jail, it had your sheriff's office, it had your police station, all in one complex, so that it was able to be more efficient and share resources. Now, Grays Harbor County is in about the same financial issues or situation that we are in, and so it's not going to be 100% without adding some possibly money from the taxpayers. That's just the cold hard truth. It's not something I want. It's not something any of you want as taxpayers, but it's something that we have to do. And so my main goal is to figure out, what do we need to do? Start getting those cogs in motion, start getting that research done, getting those people that know how to build jails and how to save us money, to at least tell us these are some options, some plans. This is what it's going to cost you. These are the different agencies that would be interested in participating with us, and then presenting those options to the county commissioners and to the people so that they can vote on what they feel like they're willing to spend money on, so that we can alleviate this problem. Because right now, catch and release should only be for fishing.
Yes. Do you support Initiative 940 regarding de-escalation training for police officers and the change of standards for use of deadly force from malice of intent to acting in good faith and a follow-up independent investigation?
Well, that's one I haven't been asked, and I'm not really familiar with that one. This is what I do believe, and hopefully it falls in line with the question there. I believe that every situation, although can be a crisis, it needs to have that level of intervention. Our mouth should be our number one tool. Not our taser, not our firearm. It should be our mouth. And we got to understand that these are people in our community, and they're going through something, regardless of whether it's good or bad, regardless of whether we understand it. We need to spend the time, talk through the situation, and use of SWAT vehicles and high levels of force should be the last resort. When I was a service member deployed overseas, there was a whole list of things that we had to do before I could pull the trigger. And we had an acronym for it, and it was started with shout, show, shove, show again, and shoot. And it took a while. It wasn't, and that's all after you got shot at first. Because, it was very important to make sure that we weren't shooting, unarmed civilians and causing unnecessary casualties. So I understand that resistance is so necessary when it comes to those situations. And yes, you might feel that your life's endangered. You've got body armor, you got a weapon, and it's a dangerous world out there. And criminals, they're willing to go a lot further than they were 20, 30 years ago. But we have to be smart about it, and we need those officers to have as much training as possible, because it's all about muscle memory. And when you have that kind of training, that's going to be second nature, and you're going to know how to get in and out of that situation with harming as little as possible.
What I'd like to say, what I think about 940 and de-escalation is, you said mouth, I say brain too. To de-escalate a situation, you have to think it through and think it through quickly. And I personally, aside from the League of Women Voters, just think training is good, period. If the goal is to not injure or harm either side of a conflict. So
yeah, absolutely.
I believe the League of Women Voters is supporting 920.
Okay.
So I think I'm on firm ground giving a bit of an opinion about that.
Absolutely.
How should we as a community address the opioid crisis and its impact on the jail population?
Well, I'm very familiar with that. My sister-in-law has struggled with an opiate addiction for years. First it was meth. She got off of that. She started a family, was doing well, and about a year ago she got into heroin. And, we've got her into a Suboxone treatment. We've housed her for a time. We've helped out with the kids. We've watched her go through this, and it's horrible. She's not a criminal. She does not belong in jail, but finding her a program that would help her was fighting tooth and nail. Luckily, she has insurance, so that covered it. But we need to have a facility for these people to go and truly get help. And I understand no one can help anybody that's not ready to get helped. And that's where she's at right now. She's on the cusp of really wanting to get clean and get helped. And when she makes that decision, I think we'll start seeing some headway. But the people that are in the jail for those kind of crimes, they're not necessarily dangerous criminals. And I understand people will, come to a point in their addiction where they'll do almost anything to get the money, to get the drugs, or to get the drugs, period. And that causes them to escalate it to a higher level. But if we can catch these people when they're identified that they have a problem and get them the help they need, and same thing with mental health patients. Put them in a facility that's going to cater to the kind of issues that they have. Well, the old PUD building, they're developing a mental health facility there. I don't know how, we're making some slight progress, but it's going to take the next 10 years of continually moving that ball forward to put those facilities together, and that's going to alleviate some of the space in the jail. It's not going to be enough. But it is something that we need to do, and we need to start focusing on getting the people that are bringing the drugs in, dealing them to the people, putting them in jail. Because right now, it seems like our hands are tied. I know exactly where her dealer is. I can't do anything. I've even pointed the sheriff's office to the house. They said, we know. But nothing can be done because there's no space in the jail because the crime level doesn't warrant a bed space.
I have some prepared questions if no one else has a burning question to ask.
Sure. Is it economically feasible for every county to have a SWAT vehicle? And my second question is, what is, for doing a regional facility for that, which county is the most feasible? Not necessarily the furthest away or the one who is hurting the most, but which county is the most feasible to work with to develop a regional facility?
A facility or a team?
A facility.
For a jail?
Jail, police department.
Okay, I thought you said team, SWAT team first. That's different.
Well, the first question is it economically feasible for
No.
every county to have?
I'll tell you why.
What
I
makes
worked at the next county over at Thurston County. I worked here. I was a public school teacher here. I was a deputy sheriff here. I went next door to Thurston County because at nighttime, when we would have something go wrong in a house, we couldn't get people there safely and quickly enough. I went over to Thurston County, rose to the rank of lieutenant. My troops over there constantly asked if they could work the west side of the county because they knew all the hot calls were coming into Mason County. The problem is when you call out those other counties, you are paying a huge bill. It's going to cost you to do that. They just brought up at the other table, why do we have these armored personnel carriers? Paid $1 from that, and I bought it from my old agency. Just not too long ago, right down the road here, we got a guy shooting indiscriminately out the windows of that house. It would have taken at least 2 hours and maybe more to get Thurston County here. We have one north, one south. We were able to roll to that call. Had we not had that, the guy sitting there shooting at us, we would have had no way to approach that house safely. You've got to have your own anymore. The Pacific County Sheriff's Office called for our assistance a couple years ago. Just to get down there to Pacific County, it was about 4 hours for us to set up on a house just to assist them. And we were the closest assistance available. The other part of that is when you ask, do you have enough? We had an issue down in Grace Harbor County. We have a lot of different issues. We had an issue down in Grace Harbor County. A SWAT team can only stay on scene for so long. So immediately, as soon as they have a team ready down there, they call us for a backup team. They call Thurston County for their team so that we can start a 24-hour rotation. To only have one, you can't continue to use the same people for that duration of time, and that's why each county needs their own. The jail piece, we are currently working. The jail was being built, or the thought of it was being built in 1981 when I was in high school. It was completed in 1985. The day after that jail was completed, it was determined it was full. The day after it was completed. That jail has been an issue since 1985. Hence another reason I left this county. I'd go out to make an arrest on a bad guy. You'd have to call down and ask if you could put somebody in jail. That has been going on since 1985. Last month, we had over 200 arrests between us, the city, and the state patrol that we should have made. But there's no room in the inn. And people say, well, stack them higher. Lawfully, you can't do that. Federal civil rights, fire codes, and everything else. There's so many beds it's lawfully able to put in. You can't stack people like cordwood, or you end up in a liability situation where the cost of the lawsuit's going to cost you more than it would to build the jail. So we have to look at those things on our own. And those vehicles are very, very important for us. They've saved numerous lives having those vehicles out there. Numerous times we've been shot at moving into a scene that we would never have been able to approach, and the person would have just been running all over the neighborhood. So those are very important pieces of equipment, and they came at a very minimal cost.
One of the prepared questions from the League is, it is widely accepted that treatment courts for nonviolent offenders is a far more effective and far less costly way to reduce recidivism than locking people up. Yet the public continues to clamor for longer sentences and bigger jails. As the chief law enforcement professional in the county, do you think it's your job to educate the public, or do you just go along with locking more people up?
No, I was a huge proponent down here immediately on Veterans Court and specialized courts. The issue that I have, and I've said I'm not a veteran, so I don't purport to be, the issue that I have is that when a person goes overseas and becomes an American hero and defends us and gets a traumatic brain injury and comes back, and it's no fault of their own, that their memory might have a memory issue or whatever, they forget to go get their driver's license, they get issued their first citation, they get issued a second citation, then they get a warrant for their arrest, and we're putting those people in our jail. It's absolutely wrong to be doing that. And we work very hard. We have a Vets Helping Vets program in our office that we actually go over and help with that program. One of the gentlemen in the room tonight helped us with that program. It is much more efficient, and it's hard to convince people that. However, there are some people that need to be hauled in jail and stay in jail, so don't get that mixed up. We need to have that space available. But there's also, the thing that bothers me is we also have people harping on me all the time about arresting people because they've got mental health problems. It is not against the law to have a mental health problem, nor is it against the law to be a transient person and not have money. That is not against the law, and I get so tired of people saying just arrest them and throw them in jail. It is not against the law to not have the wealth to have a home. And so these other things can certainly help us, and we're using them at pretty much maximum capacity, but we still have to have, our jail is full of felons. It's not full of misdemeanors, it's full of felons, bad people, and we need more space for the bad people. In the year that we convinced the county, challenge you to look up RCW 39-34-180, states by RCW, by the state of Washington, states that the county commission, if you're arresting people, they shall provide a facility to put the people in that you've arrested. If they can't, the RCW says you must outsource those. You must put them in another jail. We were doing that. When we were able to make the arrest that we should be making, our crime rate dropped in some areas as low as 28%. It went down. As soon as we were told we could not put people in and transfer people to other jails, our crime rate's going just like this. Whether I'm here or anybody else is here, unless you get a jail built and you can't hold people accountable, you're going to have them wander around the community because there's nowhere to put them.
Another question from the league is, in an effort to reduce costs, many police departments are replacing their gas guzzler muscle cars with more dependable economical units. If elected, will you reduce the number of gas guzzlers in your fleet when something more economical will do?
Actually, we kind of did that. We went from a car that I was driving, it was Steve Weibark's old car, and it was really tired when I got it from Steve. It was averaging about 9 to 10 miles a gallon. It was a Ford Crown Victoria. And those particular years, they were horrible anyway. And we actually moved from the V8 models, and we moved down to a more efficient, which was our little Fords that we have, the little sport utility vehicles, which then allowed us not to have to go out and buy a whole bunch of snow tires and things, which allowed us to be able to access our high-end areas, when you go up to Lake Cushman and things, which was a much better deal. Understand that the sheriff doesn't get to say which cars come out of there. The county commissioners decide that. I'm in a Prius tonight. Now, if that thing had the ground clearance, I'll tell you, if you've never driven one, a Prius flies. It's just generally the people that buy them don't make them fly. But they are a fast car. And yes, anything that's more efficient like that would be better. Absolutely. Well, there's certain patrol cars you have to choose from, but the number of cars, and like we buy our cars now, we have to use them out to 150,000 miles. So anybody that comes in and said we just switch them out, if you just bought a car that's got 10,000 miles on it, you don't have a choice just to switch it out for fuel efficiency. It has to run the course of the car. But we've done that with our new trucks too. They're better than they used to be, but when you're driving patrol and they sit and idle for hours, that's the other thing people don't understand. You can't turn the cars off anymore. People say, you turn the car off, you're wasting fuel. You can't, because the radio systems and the computers that are in there, they'll run that battery down, you're done. You're sitting out there. So those cars have to keep running. They even have bigger alternators in them to keep all that electrical process going so we stay connected for phones and everything. So there's only so much you can do on that. I'd do a solar car if I could have one. Thank you.